Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to welcome our guest, Alexandria Lee, the 2011 Pro Musicus International Award winner in piano. Welcome to the third episode of Pro Musicus Family of Artists, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We're so looking forward to talking to you. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Pro Musicus and the process that you went through to get prepared for the Pro Musicus International Award?
So that's a story. I am originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, and
Oh, okay.
yes, so that's where I'm also dialing in from.
Okay.
So I was, yep, yeah, double sevens, double sevens.
Exactly.
So I was getting my graduate degree out at Stony Brook University,
Hmm.
and during that time, I had a colleague win the Per Musicus. It was Ina Falix. Ina was
Oh,
also
sure.
was also getting a DMA at the same time I was getting a DMA at Stony Brook.
Okay.
And another one of former winners of the piano division was Tanya Gabrilian. So she was also a colleague of mine, and she had invited me to her winner's recital.
Well,
And
you're certainly good company.
I was. It was like a sign. The universe was saying, if you don't apply, you're missing out. So the first time, my first brush was with Per Musicus was through Tanya. So I was attending her recital, and I knew nothing about Per Musicus. Of course, she played such a lovely, demanding, amazing program. And I flipped to the back of the program and started reading about Pro Musicus. And it absolutely touched me, just the mission of it. Um, it was like a bell that clearly rang out to me. And I said, why am I not applying for this? I mean, everything called out to me because I really love using music as a service to others.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then I let another round go by, and that was the year that Ina won. I'm actually glad that I didn't compete at the same time as Ina.
Sure.
And I was busy with my schoolwork, and that was why I didn't apply. And finally, in 2011, I said, "Okay, now's the time." And it was a wonderful process for me. Of course, I practiced my butt off, knowing who was in the jury, knowing the legacy of this competition. So I played for Gil Kalish, Lucy Shelton. Father Merlet was was sitting in the panel as well, and it was nerve-wracking for me, but also joyous because, like I said, there was something about the mission of Pro Musicus that made sense to me to apply. And yeah, I got a call from John later on the day and was absolutely thrilled to hear that I was chosen.
Oh, how exciting that was for you. And so were you at Stony Brook when you won the prize or already living in Las Vegas?
I was still in Stony Brook.
And
So
you're
I,
working on your DMA.
yeah, my DMA was a long process because I kept getting sidetracked by really fun projects. But um,
Well, I think you're excused, and DMA is a long process for everybody. And it's good that you got sidetracked because that leads us to when you won the prize. You also, did you propose a Father Merlet? Did you propose a project as well, or just do community service concerts?
at that time, there wasn't an aspect or an arm of the community service award. So
Right, because obviously, as you said earlier, Father Merlet was still alive, and then that aspect of the award had not been created yet. So it
and
was just community service concerts.
right, and aside, I'm I'm feeling so grateful that I got to meet Father Merlet because he passed
Yes,
within the year after I had won. Um,
that's a
I
great
had
opportunity.
I had a chance to visit with him in his New York City Pro Musicus office, and
Hmm.
that was meaningful, just to connect with the figurehead of Pro Musicus and to see how the mission was truly aligned with authentic feeling and words, and it was fantastic. So I, in 2011, had won Pro Musicus, and I was still getting things done over at Stony Brook's End.
Tell us about your New York debut, your Weill Hall debut.
That was slated in October, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It was April and 2012. And that year that I had won, I shared the award with Andrew Stope. And Pro Musicus was going through a transition at that time, obviously because Father Merlet had passed. And very smartly so, very pragmatically, we decided to share a recital. So our debut at Weill Hall was split in half, and so that doubled the energy and excitement. Andrew can tell you how we were both so charged. We were texting each other leading up to the Carnegie Hall day and saying, "How much are you practicing?" I mean, I was practicing till the wee hours of the night, and so was Andrew. I mean, he was in Texas, and both.
What did you play?
I had commissioned my friend and composer Ryan Carter for a piece, and appropriately, because he knows me, he named it "Competing Demands," and it's a really fantastic 3-minute piece. And I also brought that over to Paris 2 years ago and played that there.
Great. Wonderful.
I also, my showstopper was the Mussorgsky Pictures and Exhibition.
Okay, great.
That was really, really gratifying and fun to play in Weill Hall.
How lucky you were to experience the magic of Father Merlet before he passed away. That very special, godly man who was just something very angelic and beautiful about him.
It's an honor and a privilege.
Indeed it is.
And how the universe just aligned on so many levels to bring me to this family.
Tell us about highlights of some of the service concerts you've done and the organization that you've created. I had given an outreach concert through Pro Musicus following my Carnegie debut about 2 weeks afterwards. And it was at the Phoenix House, which is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center. And Yamaha had carted in this beautiful grand piano into their multi-purpose room, and apparently had sat there for a few days, and it got the entire building excited for what was to come, because I don't think that happens too often. Indeed.
Where a beautiful grand is sitting in this room, and there were about 200 people in the audience, and of course they had divided the room with protocol into the male side and then the female side. And that was my first brush with a community outreach service for Pro Musicus. And I had given outreach performances before, but as you said, there is something magical about doing the work under Pro Musicus. It's a very clear mission. It's a very clear mission. Sharing the artist spirit. Nurturing these audiences. So, with that kind of purpose, pushing from behind, it makes it so easy to play every single concert. Not even the community service ones, but even the Carnegie Hall one. And I was also presented in Boston at Laundry School of Music, and had a couple of outreach concerts there, and then went back to New York City, played at the Jewish Guild for the Blind, And that was also so memorable. And what was quite fascinating is it just paved the way for so much of my work following 2011. So, for example, when I was interviewing for the Carnegie Hall job, they said, well, what's your community outreach experience? Where have you played and what have you programmed? And I was like, well, let me tell you. That's because there is a lot of community service component to the Carnegie Hall Fellowship. And
so do you still hold that Carnegie Hall Fellowship, or was it just?
The fellowship runs for 2 years. So my stint was from 2012 to 14. And
were you able to incorporate the elements of Pro Musicus with the Carnegie Hall project?
Absolutely. What's really important to remember is that what I remember is Pro Musicus came along 50 years before, this Ensemble Connect project, meaning that there's been this community outreach service that was a priority. It wasn't just a tag along. So many organizations nowadays, for whatever reason, it could be a genuine, authentic reason or not, but why are people attaching a community service component? And what I love about Pro Musicus is it's through Father Merlet, who had started this in the 60s and paved the way for so many organizations. And and also for my own nonprofit. So you were asking about that. And
please talk about your nonprofit.
So in 2014, I had started playing around with the idea of doing something back in Las Vegas. I had been away for close to 15 years, the entire time in New York. And I knew at some point I was going to come back to Las Vegas to contribute in some way. In 2015, I launched a 3-day music and wine festival where I was pairing wine to classical music here in Las Vegas. I mean, it's such an appropriate venue. It's Las Vegas. It was like a kind of a disguised outreach because more than half of my audience members had never been to a classical music concert before. And they also would want to return to a classical music concert. So after doing that chamber music festival for 3 days, I decided to heft upon myself more work and start a nonprofit. And that's where Notes with a Purpose was born, because I just wanted to fold all of my projects under one umbrella. So we had a couple of programming initiatives. And of course, Father Merlet and my experience with Pro Musicus was always sort of this presence as I was planning things, all of my experiences. Sometimes it was a conscious decision, sometimes it was subconscious. It's like why there's the Las Vegas Rescue Mission. It's a faith-based nonprofit that feeds 500 meals, gives out 500 meals during dinner, during dinner time. And about 400 people pass through, 450 people pass through. And they happen to have a Yamaha Baby Grand in the corner of the dining room, and it was donated and never used. So the CEO at that time, Chip Hinderleiter, was introduced to me and knew that I had a passion for bringing music where it was hardest to reach. And he goes, could you come in and do something? And I said, yes, absolutely.
Light bulb.
Yes, I kicked it off by playing a solo concert for their addiction recovery program, to which there was about 150 people in their program. And it's a very strenuous 18-month program. So I gave a concert called Transformation of Being, and one of the piece that really showed that transformation was the Bach chaconne. in D minor, and I played the Busoni arrangement of it. Absolutely. So at the end of the piece, it is utterly triumphant, and I could feel...
Which could apply to their lives, how they're trying to rebuild their lives.
That's right.
In a sentence or two, what is the mission statement of your organization?
It is to it's to change lives one note at a time. That's our tagline.
Okay.
Changing lives one note at a time. And
do you concentrate on other places besides drug addiction centers, other types of places where music is not ordinarily heard?
Yeah, we have the third largest school district in the U.S. here in Las Vegas, and one of the wonderful aspects is that there are music teachers in every single school, but there is an opportunity for professional musicians to come into to go into the schools and to provide a real professional, in terms of performance, a real performance showcase. So Notes with a Purpose has something called the Music Juice Box series, in which we ship around Carnegie Hall teaching artists to schools for 4th and 5th graders. And there is an interactive performance that the children, or the students, are partaking in, and they're in small groups, 150 students at the most. And we, up till the point of December 2019, we had reached just over 12,000 4th and 5th graders.
Oh my goodness. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing and adapting and feeling about the pandemic?
Personally, I mean, I think it shocked everyone just on a human level. And then thinking about it as a professional musician, then we start worrying about, livelihoods. I was worrying so much about my friends who only rely on in-person performance careers. I fortunately have a wonderful piano studio here in Las Vegas that I started just a year before the pandemic. I mean, it's almost like if that hadn't happened, I would have probably, I don't know.
Have all your lessons gone online then?
I went online during the lockdown, and yeah. I keep a very small studio, and most of my students, all of my students are very, they come from families, let's say, who believe in the virus, and a lot of them have parents who are in the medical field. And so after a month and a half of online lessons, as things started to ease up just a little bit, in terms of identifying what was happening, my studio, it's a separate room attached to a house. So meaning it doesn't share any air ducts with the rest of the private home, and it has a separate entrance, and I have 2 Yamaha baby grands right next to each other, so was able to distance. So I jumped back to in person with my private students, and masked, sanitizing agents, and I always leave room anyway between my students, but I let that time to air out. I mean, there's so many things that you have to think about to ensure that we're protecting people. So,
Now, another question for you that I ask all the Pro Musicis artists that I'm interviewing. If you were stranded on a desert island, okay, what would be the one piece of music or the one performance that you would want to take with you of any artist, any genre that you would want to listen to?
The first thing that popped up into my head was the slow movement of the Ravel concerto, the G major concerto, and either Lenny Bernstein playing that, or Ellen Grimaud, or John Browning. That is one of those pieces where it's so transcendent that that's what immediately popped up into my head, and it's very calming.
That's a good one to pop in. Very calm. And with that, let's switch to one of those performances so we can actually hear that. So let's listen to that now. What a great choice. How beautiful that calming, like you say, that is. And what a beautiful performance. Now, the next question for you, so we can hear your beautiful artistry. Can you share with us a performance, a live performance that you've done, and introduce it for us?
Sure. I really enjoy throwing onto my programs a Mozart piece called 12 Variations on A Vous d'Oreille du Maman. And most people recognize it as the tune to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Little Star, yeah, sure.
And it's always fun to sometimes hear an audible reaction after the tune is introduced. You go to the first variation and people go, wait, what happened? Like Mozart did something to it.
Well, with that in mind, let's listen to a live performance of you gracing the stage playing this beautiful Mozart piece. So here we go. thank you, Alexandra Lee, for sharing your time with us and being part of the Pro Musicis family of artists. I mean, interviewing all of the young artists, it's a special family who understands this idea that Father Merlet formed so many years ago of this sharing of music and bringing it to people who would not ordinarily hear music as you're doing and making such a difference. And as I say to all of the Pro Musicis artists, and I mean it most sincerely, I know that Father Merlet is smiling down from heaven looking at you right now, and God bless you for that.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful talking to you, and we look forward to more concerts, live music, and keep going along and keep developing and changing and evolving to make this world a more beautiful place, as you've already done and will continue to do. Thank you so much for your time and your talent, Alexandria.